Hello, our top story today. Britain's King Charles hailed the shared values in an historic address to the German Parliament today on the second day of his state visit to Berlin. Originally, his first overseas trip as king was intended to be France, of course, but that trip had to be cancelled for security reasons last week. We can take a listen to King Charles.
Die lange und besondere Geschichte.
In the long and remarkable story of our two countries, there are many chapters yet unwritten.
Lassen Sie uns
Let us fill these with the restless pursuit of a better tomorrow, the legacy of our past and the great promise of our future demand nothing less.
King Charles there speaking to the Bundestag. Well, I'm joined now on the line by Quentin Peel, who is an associate fellow with the think tank Chatham House at the European programme there. He's joining us from London. Thank you for your time, Mr. Peel. First of all, give us an idea, what did Britain hope to gain by this trip? The royal family, famously part of British soft power. What was this about? What were they trying to do?
Well, I think it's really about trying to heal the wounds of Brexit. It's about trying to say, look, we can and will be good friends, not just with Germany, clearly, but with France as well, because this was intended to be, first came France and then came Germany. Because of the delay in the trip to France, Germany's getting all the attention. But there's a very strong symbolism, I think, to a British monarch actually standing in front of the German parliament and not pulling his punches. He's saying, we want to be close, we have been close, much, much more positive than British politicians have been.
And, of course, this trip was meant to be, his first trip was intended to be to France. That had to be moved, and instead he's in Germany. How different are those two relationships, the British relationship with France and the British relationship with Germany?
Well, it's curious, really. I suppose the relationship with France is the enemy we love to hate. And hate to love. But it's an understanding relationship. The German relationship is more complicated. Clearly, we were enemies during the First and Second World Wars, whereas we were allies with France. But having said that, I think that it's bedeviled by constant sort of we ought to be better friends feeling. And we never quite understand each other properly. The Germans are really upset by the Brexit process. And I think that what King Charles is now trying to do is to say, look, let's make sure the bilateral relationship is good, even if the relationship with the European Union is not as good as it was.
What sort of coverage is this getting in Britain? How interested are the British people in this, his first trip abroad, and this being Germany?
Well, it's not huge, to be honest, although clearly it's leading the television coverage of the BBC. But I think that the newspapers are not actually all playing it on the front page. Now, I stand to be corrected. This could change tomorrow. What I think is most interesting is that where King Charles has been really quite outspoken about his desire for much closer ties with the continental European countries, above all France and Germany, he's not come in for the sort of really rather hysterical abuse you might have expected from the Brexit lobby, the people who would do anything to leave the European Union, the right wing of the Conservative Party and the Brexit Party. They haven't yet come out publicly and denounced him. So it's quite interesting. Maybe he'll get away with it.
Now, this was clearly a charm offensive. There was nothing in any way controversial in this speech. What does Britain hope to gain from this? He is hoping, Charles, to smooth over relations in preparation for Britain to get what from Germany? What is it lobbying it for? We heard about, for example, cooperation on science. There's the Horizon Science Programme. What about environmental issues? What sort of things will Britain be pushing for once this path has been smoothed?
Well, clearly close cooperation on the war in Ukraine, and he was really quite outspoken on the unprovoked attack of Russia on Ukraine and so on. So that's number one. But you're quite right to single out science and research, because that's an area where actually I think the British government realises that they've shot themselves in the foot by excluding themselves, in effect, from the Horizon Research Programme, which is hugely important to the British science community, and also trade relations. I mean, this is a new tone from the British government, reflected by King Charles. We want to have better trade relations. We want to have good science and research and environmental relations. And I think this is a different tone to what we used to hear from Boris Johnson and Liz Truss and even Theresa May.
And of course, King Charles, before he became king, was known mostly throughout the world for his very early position on environmental issues. And that's an area where Germany is a bit of a world leader. Do you think he might be able to advance progress and cooperation in that area more than perhaps Queen Elizabeth might have?
Well, he certainly would like to. And I think what is actually very interesting about the whole trip and the speech, very carefully crafted, is that he is being more outspoken than his mother ever was. She was always slightly ambiguous about the message that she would give. It was sort of peace and love and harmony without being too close. He's more outspoken, and particularly on things like the environment, and I'm sure that will go down well in Germany. I think the message will be heard and welcomed.
Well, thank you very much, Quentin Peel. Thank you for your time. Quentin Peel there speaking to us from London. He is with Chatham House think tank.